Flaws in the foster care system lead a judge to order Texas to pay huge fines, but the state's pushing back. The fight over keeping kids safe and what comes next. Money and jobs coming to Texas as the state aims to lead the way in semiconductors.
These are the chips that we need right now if we're going to be able to compete in what's becoming a more dangerous world.
We look at how bipartisan work could boost both the economy and national security. And a flood of campaign cash pours into the race for U.S. Senate.
Democrats nationwide do not like Ted Cruz and would love nothing more than to defeat Ted Cruz.
We dig deeper into the comparisons and contrasts to the last big challenge for Cruz.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. Fireworks in the long-running fight over failures in Texas' foster care system. This week, a federal judge slammed the state with a daily fine of $100,000 over failing to investigate claims of abuse and neglect. And the state is pushing back. This lawsuit is stretching into its 13th year. So let's back up a bit so we can better understand what's happening now. In 2015, U.S. District Judge Janice Jack found the state's child welfare system to be unconstitutional and said children were leaving it worse off than when they entered. Jack issued several dozen court-ordered reforms called remedial orders. Those included steps to protect children from sexual abuse and other measures to try and fix the problems in how the foster care system functioned. Twice already, she found the state in contempt for violating these remedial orders. And last fall, the attorneys representing the children asked her to hold the state in contempt yet again. Avery Travis has been following this case for several years. Avery, this latest penalty is aimed at a different aspect of the foster care system, right?
Yes, a lot of the focus thus far has been on the Department of Family and Protective Services. But in a scathing ruling released last week, Judge Jack hammered the Texas Health and Human Services Commission, particularly its Provider Investigations Unit, which is tasked with investigating claims of abuse and neglect from people with intellectual or developmental disabilities living in state-licensed facilities, some of whom are in the permanent care of the state's foster system. The judge says they are failing to consider the safety of the children during these investigations and aren't meeting the 30-day deadline to conduct these investigations, a deadline that's laid out in her remedial orders. She demanded the state pay $50,000 a day for each of those violations.
Well, we know the state almost immediately filed a response. What are they saying about the order?
Josh, just a day after Judge Jack issued her order, the state was already asking the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals for a stay, or a block, basically, of those fines, pending an appeal. Now they're arguing, as they have in the past, that the state has taken extraordinary measures and spent more than $100 million to make these reforms. They say they are in 90% compliance of 12 of her orders, and they also note that they're making progress on other remedial orders. The filing points to previous court records saying they also want to flag serious federalism concerns when a federal court exercises near perpetual oversight of an area of core state responsibility, like the already complex child welfare system. Plus, the filing also noted that the public interest will suffer from harm to state budgets because of the hefty nature of these fines. And the Fifth Circuit agreed, halting those fines temporarily.
So if this is temporary, what comes next and when?
That's the big question, right? We're looking ahead. We're expecting those parties to file responses later on this week. We're also going to hear from the attorneys representing Governor Abbott and other child welfare officials as well in those filings. Plus, the attorneys for the children in the ongoing foster care lawsuit are expected to file a response as well. And there is another hearing on this case that'll take up even more complex issues. That is scheduled for June.
All right, Avery, thank you very much. A different part of the lawsuit focuses on children without placement, or CWAP. These are children the state is housing in rentals or hotels, as it does not have another placement for them. New videos from inside these unlicensed locations, plus a first-hand account from a foster child, seem to show these long-documented problems persist. Jayla Washington heard from advocates on this issue and has more about how the state says it's addressing the need.
They don't give us nothing. Rotten food, moldy food in the fridge.
This video was recorded by Texas human rights activist Dr. Candace Matthews in early April. She says she took it at a temporary home for a child without placement, or CWAP, in Austin.
They never come through with groceries.
It's a rare glimpse for the public of a first-hand account from a child currently in the Texas foster care system. One of at least 30 children across the state who Matthews says found her social media posts advocating for transparency, reaching out to her from CWOP temporary homes asking for help.
But what really got us was when you actually put your eyes on it.
Matthews and a group of human rights advocates visited 2 CWOP temporary homes in Austin. She says to see for herself what the children said they were experiencing.
When children call and tell us that they're not eating, when children call and tell us that, none of their needs are being met, we have every right to go up there.
She says they took photos like these of empty refrigerators and blamed poor living conditions on Health and Human Services, as well as the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. And the conditions are similar to those documented at a CWOP location in Bell County. That's according to court records filed late last year. We heard similar concerns echoed at a December court hearing in the long-standing lawsuit over the treatment of these children. In a statement, DFPS said, what the videos show are the living quarters of active youth and their CPS caseworkers, as the videos also selectively show multiple caseworkers and DFPS employees are assigned to each CWOP location with groceries, snacks, and meals provided by CPS. The statement says in one of the videos, the caseworker is heard commenting on a pending HEB grocery delivery, and that all are checked for food and cleanliness by CPS staff. DFPS also told us that security is provided at each CWOP location and was successful at stopping one of the unauthorized visits on Friday. That video was not shown, but we will be reviewing security at all CWOP locations to discourage trespassing. Still, advocates like Chaz Moore from the Austin Justice Coalition are pushing for more transparency.
The least we can do is make sure that our kids are as comfortable as they can dealing with life stress and dealing with the hardships that life comes at them.
Jayla Washington, State of Texas.
We reached out to DFPS to respond to the advocates' videos and our questions. They sent a statement saying CWOP continues to be a top priority for DFPS and nonstop 24/7 efforts are paying off, adding that on April 8th, only 15 children were counted in the entire state, the lowest number since 2021. For comparison, data we brought you last year found the state reporting an average of more than 60 children without placement on any given night. When it comes to campaigns in Texas, cash is king. The big race for Senate is no exception. We look at why it could take record-breaking fundraising to win. Plus, the Lone Star State gets a big boost for its push to become a global leader in semiconductors, the new funds propelling the state toward the goal. And a warning about the psychological risk of social media on children. It's a new report, but parents and lawmakers are already taking action. Millions of dollars are already flooding the race for U.S. Senate, and it could be on pace to break records for campaign cash. The race pits Democratic Congressman Colin Allred against incumbent Republican Senator Ted Cruz. Allred is the underdog, but he's raising more money than Cruz. He's even outpacing fundraising records set in 2018 by Beto O'Rourke. Monica Madden looks closer at the latest campaign finance reports and how they compare to the standard set 6 years ago.
The cash is coming. New filings with the Federal Elections Commission show Congressman Colin Allred surpassing Senator Ted Cruz in the first quarter of fundraising this year. Allred raising more than $9.5 million and Cruz raising more than $6.9 million.
Democrats nationwide do not like Ted Cruz and would love nothing more than to defeat Ted Cruz.
To run a statewide campaign in Texas, cash is king.
You have to spend a ton of money simply because the great size of the state. It's running ads on television, other social media, just trying to reach voters wherever they are.
Just take from 2018, when Beto O'Rourke raised over $80 million throughout the election cycle and spent almost all of it. He still lost to Cruz by 3 points.
Colin has clearly established that he is in a position to beat Ted Cruz.
Allred donors like Matt Engel say it's a different race than the Cruz-O'Rourke matchup.
I think if Colin's building on any fundraising success, it's his own. When he ran and won a Republican seat for Congress in 2018, he's taken positions that shows that he's going to be a pragmatic person who sees the world from the middle out.
In a statement, a spokesperson for the Cruz campaign tells us, quote, Senator Cruz is off to a very strong start. His Q1 fundraising numbers reflect Texans' urgency for victory as Democrats threaten to strip away our common sense way of life.
We know who Ted Cruz is. We know where he stands on the issues. So Cruz is going to go on the attack from day one and force Allred to play defense. And that's going to be very costly for the Allred campaign.
Monica Madden, State of Texas.
Allred's first quarter fundraising topped Beto O'Rourke's totals from the same period in 2018 by nearly $3 million. But that difference is smaller when you consider inflation. We crunched the numbers using the inflation calculator from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It shows that the $6.7 million O'Rourke raised in 2018 is equivalent to raising nearly $8.4 million today. Even with the inflation adjustment, Allred surpassed O'Rourke's fundraising by more than $1 million. Parents taking action to keep their kids off social media, and lawmakers in Austin are paying attention. Billions of dollars pour in to push Texas to become a leader in making semiconductors.
Every now and then you get these moments in Congress where something is so important to our national security it transcends partisan politics.
The effort from both sides of the aisle bringing money and jobs to the Lone Star State. They're in your computer, your car, even your phone. Semiconductors are essential to the technology we count on every day. Right now, most of those crucial chips are made overseas, but there's work underway to change that. Congress passed the CHIPS and Science Act to help boost production in the United States, and as Ryan Chandler shows us, it's bringing billions of dollars to expand a semiconductor facility in Central Texas.
Tucked away in Taylor, Texas. The technology of the future. Two flags celebrating a deeper partnership, allies in the fight for world dominance.
Our nations can and must build together. This investment will quite literally transform Central Texas.
The Biden administration unveiling a $6.4 billion grant for Samsung, bolstering the tech giant's $40 billion. The facility, 11 million square feet, and 2.6 billion pounds of concrete, all working toward one critical product.
The technology that comes out of this massive plant right outside of Austin will make the entire world run. From the phones we use every day to the cars we drive and the fighter jets we fly overseas. Democrats and Republicans stress it's important we keep this technology made in America.
These are the chips that we need right now if we're going to be able to compete.
House Foreign Affairs Chairman Michael McCall sees a more dangerous world, one that threatens our access to chips. During COVID, our supply lines faltered because chip manufacturing is concentrated in Taiwan. McCall says we need to make our own in case China ever invades Taiwan.
What we're doing today will make a difference in the great world competition that we have, particularly with China.
The nation and the world, once again looking to Texas as a partner to power the world.
In Central Texas, we will once again lead the whole world behind that vision.
Ryan Chandler, State of Texas.
Pandemic interruptions to the global supply chain helped spark interest in making semiconductors in the United States. Since the spring of 2020, private companies have invested more than $350 billion in U.S. semiconductor production. A few of those companies have received CHIPS Act funds. Several more hope to benefit. The Semiconductor Industry Association identified 9 projects underway in Texas tied to manufacturing or suppliers. 5 are in the Austin area. The largest is the Samsung plant in Taylor. 3 projects are in the North Texas area, including 2 plants being built in Sherman. And in Lubbock, XFAB Texas announced plans last summer for a $200 million expansion. XFAB makes silicone wafers. The company hopes to get CHIPS Act funding to help with the expansion. All told, those tech investments are expected to bring Texas more than 12,000 jobs. Congressman Michael McCall played a key role in getting the CHIPS Act passed, and he told us it's about more than money.
Clearly it's a big economic benefit, but why is it important that we keep this technology made here in America and in Texas?
Well, we've offshored it for over 20 years. 90% of the advanced semiconductor manufacturing is in Taiwan. Taiwan is very vulnerable to China and a potential invasion from China. If that ever occurred, they would either own or break this national security asset. Chips are in many things, like your vehicles, but also in our most advanced weapon systems. At this facility, they will build a 2-nanometer chip. That's a highly advanced chip that we go into our most advanced weapon systems. It is also the advanced type of chip that we need for AI. So as we talk about AI and quantum computing and hypersonic weapons, these are the chips that we need right now if we're going to be able to compete in what's becoming a more dangerous world.
What role did you have in bringing this to Texas? Why is this a good home for this plant?
Well, you know, I introduced the bill. Prior administration's national security team came to me. I introduced it. I got John Cornyn to introduce it in the Senate. It took about 3 years. We got it done. I think my relationship with Secretary Raimondo is very powerful. I mean, she and I know we're different parties, worked very closely together to get this over the finish line. And she knows that this area, compared to the rest of the world, you have 2 universities, that's UT and A&M, that produce more engineers than any other. MIT does, but UT and A&M together. The ecosystem of technology here, the fact that Samsung is the largest foreign investment in the United States. And what's so great about this is a $6 billion grant, and in return, we're getting a $45 billion grant from Samsung to build 2 more fab plants to make the chips, but also R&D and design packaging. I can't tell you what a big step forward this is in terms of independence, and the fact it's made in America, it's great for the economy and business.
We saw a refreshing level of bipartisanship today. It's not often in this Congress you see Republicans and Democrats praising the work that they've done with each other. Why was that important? Could this project have been accomplished without that level of bipartisanship?
No, I don't think so. It took a lot of tenacity. I had to convince committees about the tax credit, the grant program. You know, Raimondo is a great team player, but no, it couldn't have been accomplished. And I think every now and then you get these moments in Congress where something is so important to our national security, it transcends partisan politics. And we came together, not all of us. There was some fierce opposition to this bill, but at the end of the day, we got it done. I compare it to like the Manhattan Project, you know, in after World War II. What we're doing today will make a difference in the great world competition that we have, particularly with China, by what's going to be done at this facility. Some of it at a very sensitive level, high level, particularly with respect to our military.
Congressman McCall was the only Republican on stage at Monday's event. Senator John Cornyn recorded a video message that played for the audience. Governor Greg Abbott did not attend the event, but he did meet with Samsung executives Monday at the governor's mansion. In a news release, the governor touted the Texas CHIPS Act. State lawmakers approved the act last session to encourage chip manufacturers to expand in Texas. It created the Texas Semiconductor Innovation Fund, which set aside nearly $700 million for grants to private businesses. The Texas CHIPS Act also includes more than $660 million to boost research and development centers at the University of Texas at Austin and Texas A&M University. Last month, the governor named the first members of the Texas Semiconductor Innovation Consortium. They'll develop a strategic plan to help the state be a leader in chip research, design, and manufacturing. A report spotlights the psychological threat of social media for young people.
Children's attention span is a commodity for these platforms.
We look at how lawmakers are responding to the concerns and how some Texas parents are taking their own steps to protect their kids. A new report highlights potential psychological threats on children exposed to social media. The American Psychological Association is now calling for companies to make changes to protect kids. The concern is leading Texas lawmakers to explore solutions, and as Monica Madden shows us, some parents are taking matters into their own hands.
As as a parent, it's really important to talk to your kids about why we are delaying social media.
Austin mom Brooke Shannon didn't want to say yes to her 3 girls getting phones and social media early just because other kids had it too.
And it's so ironic to me because when we say yes to social media, we are giving them a device that's showing them in a million ways how they're being left out.
It's why she founded Wait Until 8th, an organization that encourages other parents to delay giving their kids smartphones until at least 8th grade. The group also encourages parents to not let their kids use social media until they're at least 16 years old.
And I wanted them to have more years just being a kid, without the distractions and dangers that come with a phone.
A Tuesday APA study says social media companies need to limit features that take advantage of teens' vulnerabilities to impulses, social feedback, and distraction.
Children's attention span is a commodity for these platforms.
Last session, State Representative Shelby Slauson wrote and passed the SCOPE Act, which requires digital service providers to get consent from parents before minors can create an account.
We have a population of citizens who are not mature enough intellectually, emotionally, developmentally.
While Slauson applauds parents setting limits, she says they can't do it alone.
If government doesn't try to intervene on the behalf of our children's industry isn't inclined to do anything outside of what serves a profit motive.
It's hard to put it down.
Parents like Shannon just want to encourage others to join her.
What if we came together and said we're not going to do this together? Would that make a difference?
Monica Madden, State of Texas.
Texas lawmakers could take more steps to regulate minors using social media. One interim charge from Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick calls for reviewing what the state is doing now, including the implementation of House Bill 18. The charge calls for making policy recommendations to further protect Texas children online. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle, and we'll be back next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.